Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Real Talks. This isn't your normal entertainment um, episode today. First of all, I hope everybody's having a good weekend, and second of all, happy early Thanksgiving Eve, I suppose. So I wanted to address a couple of things. Well, one major thing. So it was about the events of last night. So everybody woke up to another mass shooting here in the United States, um, and 5 more dead, with 25 being injured in a shooting that took place in an LGBTQ nightclub last night in Colorado Springs. And unfortunately, I don't think this is a coincidence. Um, I think that there have been several things that have happened over the last week that really spawned this and brought this forward. So the first was, and I'm just going to come out and say it, Elon Musk taking over Twitter a couple of weeks ago. I mean, everybody knew where that was going to go and what the demands were going to be that he put on his employees and everybody and everything else, not giving employees ample time for whether it was paternity leave or whatever, basically giving them 42 to 72 hours and saying you have a choice. You can either be, as he quoted, quote, hardcore, or you can work 80 hours a week. If you want to leave the company, I'm going to give you maybe 3 months severance. That being said, that was a major thing. Well, the employees essentially not rioted, but there was a little bit of a mutiny, and they started dropping like flies. According to a USA Today article only a couple of weeks ago, from the time that Musk took over Twitter, 1.1 million accounts have either been deactivated or deleted in 3 weeks. So that just shows you where it was going to go. And, everybody knew he wanted to bring Donald Trump back. I mean, that wasn't a secret. Okay. And so he put out a poll. Do you want to see Trump back on Twitter? And there was 15 million votes, and 55% of the people said yes. 45% said no. And that really told you a lot about the social media site and where we're going in this country. So Trump is now back on Twitter. To those who want it, great. To those who don't, you don't have to follow him, but he's just going to be, doing the same thing, except he's not in office. Then, of course, we have the events of last night. And so, I mean, there isn't a coincidence. I mean, anybody can put 2 and 2 together and basically figure out what was going on. I want to, if you bear with me for a couple of minutes, I want to read the article to a certain extent because I want people to understand exactly what happened and where it was and everything else. And then I'm going to get into a couple of statistics with you guys. And I think these are really going to drive home the fact of what's been going on for the last several years. So I'm going to read the article. So here we go. So this happened in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So a gunman opened fire at an LGBTQ nightclub just before midnight last night, leaving 5 people dead and 25 injured, the police said. At least 2 people at Club Q, and that was the nightclub that happened at, confronted the shooter, who was using a, quote, long rifle, and prevented him from any other injuries. And by the way, those 2 people are heroes. They're absolute heroes, and they should be commended. So we owe them a great deal of debt of thanks. A suspect was taken into custody about 5 minutes after the police received the first 911 call. Authorities haven't determined a motive for the shooting, but are investigating whether it was a hate crime. Now, look, anybody who's anybody, and I'm not a rocket scientist, and I don't, think I am. Anybody who basically thinks this was not a hate crime is kidding themselves. This was an absolute hate crime. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is with this kind of situation, you have all of the red flags that nobody saw. So, of course, they got to say that to begin with because they want to assume innocence, but it is what it is. So, those that were injured were taken to several hospitals in the surrounding area. At least 2 people are still in critical condition as of Sunday morning. So, basically, this is with the Club Q shooting this year has already surpassed 2019 for the most mass killings with firearms in a year at 34. And this is according to the AP USA Today Northeastern University database. So they keep track of this. I'm going to go back and give you a couple more stats in a few minutes. So the suspect was identified as Anderson Lee Aldridge. So he's 22, guys. He's 22 years old. That's it. His life is over. He's being treated for injuries. And basically, a man with the same age and was arrested last year after his mother reported has threatened her with a, quote, homemade bomb, multiple weapons, and ammunition, according to, end quote, according to authorities who did not confirm whether the man is the same person. Okay. I mean, you're basically saying it is without saying it is. No explosives were found. However, authorities at the time said that prosecutors did not want to pursue charges. In a statement by Club Q, they called it the shooting a, quote, hate crime, and, quote, is devastated by the senseless act on our community. Our thoughts are with the victims, the families, and friends, end quote. It goes on to say, we thank the quick reactions of our heroic customers that subdued the gunman and ended this hate attack, said the statement. So, and then it goes on and we'll talk about different people and what they were there for, to have a good time. Look, ever since Donald Trump became president of the United States in 2016, this country has taken a turn for the worst. Okay? I'm not usually one that's being... There's 3 things I usually never talk about. Okay? There's 3 things I never usually talk about. Politics, abortion, and religion. Because with every single one of those things, everybody has an opinion. And that being said, it's a thing that is, every single one of those topics I just named are very divisive and very they're hot button topics, let's face it. So that being said, gun violence is one of those things that does not get talked about. We have a cycle in this country. Okay? And the cycle is this. We have a mass shooting, as we did last night. We mourn the victims. Thoughts and prayers and condolences to those victims. We have an uproar of the, gun control, gun violence. And then it goes away until the next one happens. And then the same thing happens, and it just goes like this. Now, I want to be honest. I want to be 100% transparent here. I am all for the Second Amendment. I think every single person, if you want to have a gun, okay, fine. I have no problem with having a gun. My issue is when you have an AR-15, banana clips, grenades, anything that is not militia type things. You shouldn't be having these as private citizens. Now, there are a lot of variables. A lot of variables here. Okay? Number 1, gun regulations. Okay, background checks. Okay? The loophole and I'll get into an article here in a couple of minutes, but the loophole that people can get a gun is just way too easy. It's way too easy. I mean, and I hate to even do this. Go back and look at what happened in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay a couple years ago. Okay, that shooter was able to. He was from Nevada, so he got guns from Nevada, and then he went to Arizona and California, and he purchased guns legally. How? I don't understand. That being said, we have another person here who, by the way, is 22 years old and his life is over. I mean, he might as well have just taken a bullet and shot himself in the head. Because, and the worst part about it is, we, the taxpayer, are going to be paying for this clown. Okay? So, according to gunviolencearchives.org, and by the way, they're nonprofits, so they have no vested interest in this. A mass shooting is a minimum of 4 victims that are shot, injured, or killed, not including the shooter. Okay? So now getting to the article I was just referring to a few minutes ago. So according to a July article in the USA Today, written by Ashley Williams, July 12th, it said that more mass shootings are done by semi-automatic weapons that are being purchased legally. Legally, guys. Now, how are we allowing semi-automatic weapons into the hands of private citizens? I don't understand this. And it is going to date me a little. But I remember back in 1981, 82, Ronald Reagan, whatever you thought as being his political affiliation and whatever else, okay? This was the last time there was an assassination attempt on a president, okay? And so what ended up happening was he was coming out of a hotel after making a speech, and somebody thought that they were going to be able to kill the president. And so James Brady, who was a Secretary of State, I believe, but he ended up jumping in front of the president. And he ended up taking a bullet, and it paralyzed him from the waist down. At that point, they then had something named the Brady Bill. And essentially it was gun regulation that regulated the amount of assault weapons that could be put out there in the world. Okay. Several years pass, everything else. It gets deregulated and everything else. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys a few stats here. Because I think the thing is, unless there is a, quote, mass shooting where you are, you read about this, and it just goes right over your head. And I know right down the street here in the town that I used to live in, as a matter of fact, the town I went to high school in, okay, had a not a mass shooting, but there was a shooter. And actually there was a student that died. And, they had to subdue this shooter and everything else. And even down at the college right down the street, a community college. Okay, I'm not talking a large university like a USC or UCLA or Wisconsin or whatever. They have active shooter drills. So if it happens, they know what to do. It's like a fire alarm when you were a kid. The fire alarm would go off, and you and your class would walk outside and say, okay, this is in case of a fire, this is where you would go. Well, this is what they were doing. They would do active shooter drills. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a couple stats. And I want you to really think about these for a minute. Okay? Now, I'm going to start 2 years ago, 2020. Okay? Now, you know what the definition of a mass shooting is. Okay? So there were 21 mass murders last year, or 2 years ago. 21. Total of 610 victims. Okay? In 2021, okay, we had 28 last year. We had 28 of these. So it went up by 7, and there were 690 people that died as a result of these. This year, with this shooting involved, that just occurred last night, this was the 34th mass shooting, and there were 600 people that have died because of it. Now, think about that. 600 people have died just this year because of a gun. Almost 40,000 people nationwide. And I'm not even including the accidental shootings, the suicides, and everything else. There have been almost 40,000 people that have died this year just because of a gun. 40,000 people. That's amazing. We have a problem in this country. And it is not our education system. It is not our, Social Security system. It is not our healthcare system. It is gun violence. If you look at every other country in the world, per capita, there is no way they have this much violence by a gun because they regulate it. The AR-15 has been used in 6 of the 14 shootings. Now, this was a, quote, long rifle. So they were able to kill 5. I say able, but they were able to shoot 5 people and kill them and injure several more. Okay, I think it was, what did I say? It was 34. I think it was like 34 people. 25 people were injured. So you had 30 people that were in some way damaged by this gun. The AR-15 has been used in 6 of the 14 mass shootings this year. What, as a country, are we doing about it? Nothing. We're just letting it happen. I'm 47 years old. I don't understand this. We protect criminals better than we do our regular people. As a result, this guy is going to rot in jail for the rest of his life, and John Q. and Jane Q. taxpayer are going to have to pay for him. I don't understand it. Now, look, I'll say this much. I am for the death penalty, but for certain things. And if you kill somebody in a malicious manner or nature, you need to die. It's that simple. You need to die. Not have a trial, not have a, look, for all those lawyers out there, I get it. But when you kill somebody, you're not thinking about what you're not thinking about the families that are going to be affected or the trauma that's going to that person if they live. You're being selfish. And by the way, they called it, the police said, well, we don't know if this is a hate crime. Bullshit. You're telling me there's no correlation between Donald Trump getting put back on Twitter, Elon Musk buying Twitter, and this happening? That's bullshit. Because if you look at the rhetoric that's been spewing around in this country for years, this is just second nature to them. Okay? We as a country we just had our midterm elections the other day, last week, okay? We as a country have to figure out where we're going to go. Because Donald Trump, and he hasn't said it yet, but you know he will, okay? You know that he's going to, and he has been raising as much money as he can. He is going to run for president again in 2024. And anybody who thinks that he's not is a fool. Plain and simple. He's just biding his time. Okay? And we cannot go back to the way it was. We can't. Because God forbid he gets another 4 years, this country's done. I said that for every day we were in COVID, which by the way, we wouldn't even be in this state if it weren't for Donald Trump, if he had taken care of what he had to. Okay? All those recordings that Woodward got, Bob Woodward, who was the Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, okay, that uncovered the whole Deep Throat scandal back in the 70s with Nixon. This is worse than that. Because he knew what was going on and he did nothing to stop it. Nothing. How are you going to allow a man to run a country that ran it into the ground, caused 300,000 deaths, shut down businesses, everything else? And he knew it was happening. If he gets reelected president, it's all over for us. It's all over for us. And I don't know where we go. I don't. I don't know where we go. Excuse me. I don't know where we go. And this is another tragedy that could have been prevented. Now that I've got all of the steam out that I needed to, because in the last 20 minutes, what to do about this? So I'm not one of those people that's just going to rant and rave and rage and not give you guys solutions. Here's what we need to do as a country for solutions. Number one, background checks. I'm not talking 24, 48, I'm talking 30 days. Okay? If somebody wants a gun that badly, okay, they can wait 30 days to get it. If something pops, okay, whether it's a criminal record or whatever, they are not allowed to get the weapon. It's that simple. They can't even buy ammunition for the weapon. Okay, so that being said, if they can't get a weapon, they're not going to be able to buy one. Any sort of weapon type of paraphernalia, whether it's holster, ammunition, scopes, any clips, anything, they are not allowed to get it. That's number one, 30 days. Okay? Number two, education. We have to educate our people, and when I say our people, I mean the Americans, our people on how to use a weapon. If you want a gun in your home for self-defense purposes, that's fine. Okay? But we need to educate the people about it. Okay? That being said, that leads to number three. Okay? Training. Every single person that applies for a weapon and is granted a weapon then has to go through a training course. Okay? Where they will get, certificates to a gun range for shooting. You have shooting instructors who will help them. Because at the end of the day, those people are the ones that want guns in their home for protection. And by the way, if a burglar or somebody breaks into your house, there's only two places that you need to shoot them. Here or here. That's it. That's it. You don't shoot them in the leg. You don't shoot them in the arm. You shoot them in between the eyes, or you shoot them right here in the heart. You know why? Because they are coming in to do malice to you, and you're defending yourself. Okay? They stepped on your property. They're breaking into your home. You're defending yourself. It's that simple. Cut and dry. So you have background checks, you have education, you have training. Number four, every single person that owns a gun would be required to get some sort of lockbox. Okay? Required. Not optional, required. Okay? That way, if they have small children, And look, this is another problem in this country, but that's all for another time. Okay, we're talking about mass shootings here, not individual. While those happen, while those are tragic too, we're talking about the big guns here, so to speak. Every single person is required to get a lockbox. Okay, they lock the uh, gun up in one place. They lock up the ammunition in another place. You say, well, what good does that do? That way, there are no accidents. There's nothing in the chamber. There's nothing that could happen. Okay, those are a few steps, and you continue with the active shooter drills and everything else. But those are the things that we need to do in this country. And as long as we have people that will say, more guns, more guns, more guns, that's not the answer. Okay? Guns don't kill people, people kill people. Okay? This person made a concerted and premeditated effort to go into that club and kill 5 people and injure another 25 people. Okay? A premeditated effort. To say this wasn't a hate crime is a bunch of bullshit. Okay? And the police are just giving them the benefit of the doubt. And personally, as an American, I'm sick and tired of gun violence being just blown off. Because the thing is, it happens all the time, and we do nothing about it. Look, Parkland back a few years ago, it should have been the end-all, be-all. And by the way, there was, somebody that's just graduating college in a year or two, he's still advocating for gun control. Okay? 2012. I mean, I'm not going to list. There have been so many instances of gun mass shootings over the last 10 years. It's sickening. The number of kids that have died, the number of parents that have been lost, the number of sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles. Why aren't we doing something about this in this country? This is crap. And, it just, we are all human beings. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter if you're gay, you're tall, you're short, you're fat, you're skinny, you're thin. It doesn't matter. Okay? This needs to stop. And I'm getting emphatic about it because I'm too tired of turning on the news or opening the paper and seeing about another mass shooting, whether it's on a school campus, an elementary school, or a nightclub, or a Walmart. You can't even go out in your house and feel safe because you don't know if somebody's going to walk in with an AR-15 and start shooting it up like a friggin' gallery. What is the problem in this country that we can't have moderation? And I blame Donald Trump. Censor me if you want, but that's the truth. Before 2016, this never happened as often. Go back and look at the statistics if you think I'm lying. GunViolenceArchives.org. Okay? The minute he got nominated, the minute he was elected president, I said it to countless people. The world stage thought of us as like a joke. Like that. Because we put a friggin' actor, I'm not talking about Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was 35, 40 years ago. Okay? This is a narcissistic man who wants to run the United States of America like a business. He had no political capital. He has no, fine, he's a great businessman, whatever. But you can't run, there's so many different moving parts to it. Whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, whether it's gun violence, whether it's Social Security. There's so many, Medicare. There's so many different variables that need to be juggled. You're like a clown juggling all these balls. And if one of them falls, it's all over. But the thing is, he deliberately 100% knew about COVID. And I'm not blaming him for, look, I'm not blaming COVID on this. Okay, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is, if Hillary Clinton gets elected in 2016, we don't have hundreds of thousands of people that died. We don't have 25 to 30% business closures. We're not in lockdown for almost a month, depending on where you are in the country. And by the way, a month is a mild number. I mean, if you were in New York or Atlanta or Los Angeles, where I'm in, it was longer for a while. Okay, you don't have people racing to try and create a vaccine and then say, "Oh, you know what? We got the vaccine, woohoo!" And then the supply and demand of that. Okay, you have none of that because at least she knew what she was doing. She was First Lady. She was Secretary of State. She was a Senator of New York. She knew what she was doing. She'd been in politics for 40 years. I mean, there's no accident there. So, look, I'm sorry, guys. I don't usually talk about this stuff. This gets me emotional. Okay? But seeing something like this and seeing the way it used to be is two totally different things. So the question is, where do we go from here? So it happened. We have a plan, or I've thought of a couple different things that we could do as a country for that. So where do we go from here? Well, we try and unfortunately learn from this. At some point, when you it's like knocking your head against the wall. First you get a headache, then you get a concussion, then you get brain damage, and then you die. After so many. You would think, after so many people dying over so many different years, that we as a country would wake up and the light bulb would go on and say, maybe we shouldn't let people have these guns. And once again, as I said, I'll reiterate what I said earlier, I am all for the Second Amendment. I'm all for that. But to a certain extent. So where do we go from here? Well, we have to pick up the pieces once again. And we move on. And hope, and just hope, that something good comes out of this. Unfortunately, I don't think it is. I think Twitter is going to get worse. I think that there's going to be more hate crimes over the next coming days. Because you got to understand something. When one person does something, there's going to be copycat incidences. That's just a fact. Maybe not to the extreme that it was. But, I'm not going to even get on the guy that, the courts have basically bankrupted him that thought that Sandy Hook never happened. I mean, he's getting what he deserved, having to pay billions of dollars to those families, But, look, the last thing I'll say is this as we close here today. What goes around comes around. And the simple fact that this happened, I believe in karma. I'll be honest. I believe that I'm not a religious person by nature, but I have seen too many times in my life where things happen and then it comes around full circle. I believe in karma. And what goes around comes around. So, to wrap this whole thing up, this was a tragedy, another tragedy that could have been easily prevented. You have to wonder, if he was only 22, number one, you have to figure out who his associates are. Not associates, but friends. Because those people that he related to probably, I don't say definitely had the same mindset. Okay? I mean, look, I'm anti-Trump. I'm not going to hang out with people that are pro-Trump. That's just not going to happen. That's sociology. People like to stick to their own circles. Whether it's a person that has glasses, they are attracted to somebody that has glasses because they look like them, or is it a body type? Maybe they're a thin person, or the body type is one way. They're not going to hang out with somebody with the opposite body types. They're just not. Okay, so the analogy I'm going to use is this. You now have to deep dive and figure out who the people he was related to are. When I say related to, I mean friends. His inner circle. Okay. How did he get this mentality? What websites was he going to? Who was he talking to on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram? And that will probably come out in coming days that there were so many red flags that nobody saw that they'll go, oh, we missed it. Mark my words, that will happen. That's where you need to go next. Because then what you can do from there is you get those people. Okay? And once you get those people, you can start weeding everybody out one by one. And it's like an onion. And then once you blow the whole onion up, that's how you get rid of it. Now, obviously, it's a lot. I put it in very easy perspective, but this is what you have to do. So, I don't know what we do. I mean, I've been going on here for almost 40 minutes, and I have given a couple solutions and everything else. Let me wrap up by saying this on a good note, so to speak. I'm not famous, nor do I, think I'll ever be famous. But personally, I want to extend my condolences to every single person that was injured or lost a loved one last night. I've lost family members, but not to violence. I can't even imagine and I'm not a cop, and I'm not trying to bullshit you when I say this. I can't even imagine the pain you're going through right now. So, from the bottom of my heart, let me say I'm sorry. And what I will say is this: you always have the memory of that person. You always have the pictures. You always have the times you were with them together. You always had all of these things. That's what you need to hang on to at this point. Okay? Because all hope seems lost. That's what you need. So, thank you guys for letting me just vent for the last 40 minutes. I woke up to this morning, and I put out a whole podcast about the Pulse shooting back in 2016. I'll leave a link down in the description for you guys. You guys are great. I know I don't get a lot of views on here. You guys are great. I am going to put this on Twitter for everybody to watch. As you can see, my background is the best, and I don't have a lot of visuals for you guys. But what I do have are opinions and thoughts and necessary things that need to be said. And these things have to be continued to be said, because if they're not, then the right, for lack of a better word, those people, they're going to win. And we as a society can't let that happen. Okay? We can't. This was a great country. And it's still, all you have to do is go back and listen to the Jeff Daniels quote of the first season of The Newsroom. And when you listen or watch that, and when you watch that, people go, your eyebrows get raised. But you know what? He's right. So, okay, guys. Once again, thank you for letting me vent for the last 40 minutes. This was something I needed to get off my chest because not a lot of people are saying anything. I mean, we wake up every single day and there's another tragedy. I hope, I really do, I hope as a society we can learn. So, okay, on that note, guys, listen, if you want to follow me, um, and by the way, one last thing I want to say: all opinions and thoughts. This is my disclaimer for the video. All opinions and thoughts are personal opinions. Okay. These are mine and mine alone. So I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not, I don't have any revenue from anybody. These are all my thoughts and opinions. So, if you'd like to follow me, I am on Instagram at wannaberounder. It will be down here. So you guys can follow me there. I usually talk about movies. This one was a little different though. But in all honesty though, I have some really good, fun things coming up for the podcast and the show. I want to start doing Flashback Fridays again. We were doing every single Marvel movie in chronological order. We ended up finishing with Black Panther. The next one, and Kyle Arking, who's you know and love. He's been doing the show with me. He'll be doing that with me. We're going to start again with Avengers Infinity War. We have 11 more movies before March. We want to try and get through all of them before March, before Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania comes out. I have an idea for 10 different videos that I think are, quote, perfect films. I want to sit down, dissect them. Kyle and I are going to dissect them. I think, and maybe we'll try and get some special guests on to do that. I think we're going to rebrand this beginning of 2023. I have a couple of ideas I'm floating around. So, okay, guys. Once again, I know I keep saying it, but thank you very much. Thank you for your time. This is 43 minutes. And, hang in there. Hang in there. Take it day by day. And have a good holiday. Have a safe holiday. And I will catch you guys on the flip side. So, for David Steele, this has been a special edition